So in this video, I want to address the second most common problem or question or confusion point we're getting from our customers post ICD-10. This question is indeed can be confusing, as well as it's a little bit confusing to try to explain, but we'll dive in here and see what we can do. The basis of the question is this: even though you've done your ICD-10 mappings, you've created your one-to-one mappings, you've already set your ICD-10 version like you should, the question is this: when I come into transaction entry and I click new to do a new charge line, it's after October 1st, so why in the diagnosis code fields here is it showing my old ICD-9 codes? I expected it to show my ICD-10 codes because I've mapped them. If you hit the down arrow, you can also see that it has been mapped to an ICD-10 code in both of these diagnosis codes here. The answer to the question is this: we're finding that a lot of our customers have done manual mapping of the ICD-9 codes. So in effect, we went into the diagnosis code list. They would take one of the existing ICD-9 codes that were already existing in their system and then just manually type in the ICD-10 code along with the ICD-10 description and hit save. We call that a manual map. I've done that on a couple of my codes here. This 847.2. I did this. I manually typed in the S33.5XXA along with the ICD-10 description, hit save. That's called a manual map. So in transaction entry, it is mapped to an ICD-10 code, and while technically that's okay, meaning if I were to build this claim right now, because I've set up my insurance carriers correctly, on the claim form it will bill this S33.5XXA ICD-10 code, as well as the M54.5, because I've mapped them. However, maybe a better way to do it is you wanted it to show the ICD-10 codes here in transaction entry. You want everyone to start seeing the ICD-10 codes here. Remember that when you did your mapping, your one-to-one mappings, Metasoft creates a brand new code for you in Metasoft. In other words, don't misunderstand or assume that when Metasoft did your one-to-one mappings that it took this, we'll just use this as an example, that it took this 034.0 and just stuck in the ICD-10. It did not. What it did is it created a brand new ICD-10 code for you, and we'll see that in just a minute. So to demonstrate, if I go back in here to transaction entry and I want to change this to ICD-10 instead of the ICD-9 code, I'm just going to press the F6. I would recommend that you set up your search like this. You have the field set to ICD-9 and then checkbox next to display ICD-10 codes, and I would type in the 847.2 in this example, and you can see that here's the new code that Metasoft created when you were doing your mappings. So I would select that code. I would do the same thing with the, let me do that one more time here. 847.724.2. So I press, I press F6. 724.2. There's the newly created ICD-10 code, and now I have both ICD-10 codes there. Now in the first video we discussed going into the case, editing the case, and changing the default diagnosis codes in the case so that it automatically populates here in transaction entry when you do a new line item, and I would recommend that. Second part to remember is that when you add new codes into Metasoft, like the codes that didn't map one-to-one, you want to make sure that this is the ICD-10, this of course is the ICD-9, and then this is the ICD-10, because Metasoft is going to show what is here in transaction entry in this top code. So it should go 10, 9, 10 every time you add a new code, 10, 9, 10. And that'll help resolve this confusion and get around that problem. Okay, so to summarize all this, the reason that Metasoft is putting in the ICD-9 codes in transaction entry when you click new is because it was mapped, the ICD-9 codes were mapped to an ICD-10 rather than a new code being created and being mapped to the ICD-9. There's a difference there, and it's an important concept to understand through all this, is that when you initially mapped your codes using Metasoft, and you did the one-to-one mappings or the other mappings, you see, when you did this, Metasoft didn't just update your existing ICD-9 codes and put the equivalent ICD-10 there. What it did is it created a brand new code in your ICD-10, your diagnosis code list. It put a brand new code and then mapped it to your ICD-9, like this one here. It did not modify your existing code and just add the ICD-10 fields. It created brand new codes. So to fix this issue, we recommend you go ahead and just make all of your ICD-10 codes and stop using your old ICD-9 codes. In other words, if you've already done your mapping, that's what Metasoft did, is it created a brand new code. But if you need to add new codes, if you do that manually by clicking the new button, or you add new codes using Encoder Pro, it's the same. You're going to put here, this code field is an internal code field to you. So we recommend just putting the ICD-10 code there. The ICD-9 code would go here, the ICD-10 code, of course, here. So it's in a kind of a 10, 9, 10 format. If you add codes using Encoder Pro, let me type in an 847.2 here and search on that, and then add the ICD-10, and I hit map. You'll see that Metasoft does that. It puts a 10 at the top, followed by the 9, followed by the 10. And when I hit save, I'm adding a brand new code into the database. That way, when you are in transaction entry, and I bring up the patient, and I hit new, and I want to update his old ICD-9 codes, I press the F6 key, or I right click and do search to bring up the advanced search. I type in the old ICD-9 code, and it will bring up the new ICD-10 that was mapped to the ICD-9. I can hit OK, and that'll add it there. I can do the same thing with the 724, and here's the newly added ICD-10. Here's my old one that was manually mapped that I don't want to use. I want to use the new ICD-10 code, and now I've got the ICD-10s entered in there. Now remember, in the last video we talked about going to the case, editing the case, and updating the default diagnosis here in that same way. Press the F6 key or right click, go to search, and add in the diagnosis of the ICD-10, so that every time this patient comes in and you click new, it'll automatically add in or have the ICD-10 code listed for you. So I hope this helps clear up any confusion and any questions on this issue.
Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video and found it helpful. If you did, let us know by giving us a thumbs up by clicking on the like button below. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to write those in the comments section below. And if you want to get more helpful videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks!